Today, we're diving into a story about a family that's just pushed to its absolute limit. It's a raw story full of crisis, shocking violence, and then that really tough journey towards renewal.
And really, it's a question we can all relate to, right? How does a family, or anyone, really, recover from tragedy and betrayal? When things are shattered by trauma and just awful decisions, where do you even start to pick up the pieces? Well, to get some perspective on this, we're actually going to turn to the book of Genesis. It gives us this incredibly raw, no-holds-barred look at one of the absolute darkest moments in the life of Jacob's family. So let's set the stage. This whole crisis kicks off with a single, just devastating event, and it all centers around Jacob's only daughter, Dinah.
The Bible doesn't mince words here. It's stark, it's direct. Dinah, who's the daughter of Leah, goes out, maybe out of curiosity, to see the local women. And a local prince, a guy named Shechem, sees her. And the text says he took her, lay with her, and defiled her. It's a brutal, violent act, and it's the spark that's about to light a massive fire. But there's more going on here than just a personal tragedy. Scholars like Gordon Wenham point out that this is also a huge cautionary tale. It's about the dangers of assimilation, the risk of Jacob's family just sort of blending in with the pagan cultures around them and losing that unique identity they were supposed to have.
Okay, so this terrible thing has happened, but it's the family's response to it that really sends things spiraling. The focus immediately shifts to Dinah's brothers, specifically Simeon and Levi, who decide they're going to handle this themselves.
And their plan? Wow. It's not just a hot-headed reaction. It is cold, calculated, and just dripping with deceit. They go to the city and they propose this marriage alliance, this peaceful solution. The only catch, all the men in the city have to be circumcised. Of course, it's all a trick. They wait until the third day when the men are sore and completely defenseless, and then they attack. They go in and kill every last male in the city.
So you might think their dad, Jacob, would be, proud that they defended their sister's honor? Nope, not at all. His reaction is pure gut-wrenching terror. He basically says, "What have you done? You've made me a stench in this land." He knows, instantly, that they've just painted a massive target on their entire family's back.
And that's the real tension of the story right there. You have this motive, zeal for their sister's honor, which sounds noble, right? But the outcome? It's a complete catastrophe. Their so-called justice not only put everyone's life in danger, but it was the exact opposite of the divine mission they were supposed to be on. So the family has basically hit rock bottom. They're surrounded by violence, by fear, by their own terrible choices. And right at this lowest point, the whole story takes a sharp turn. The camera, so to speak, pivots away from human failure and towards a divine call for a reset. God himself steps in, and he gives Jacob a very clear command. Arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there. Now, Bethel isn't just a random spot on the map. This is a hugely significant place. It's where Jacob first encountered God, where he made his covenant. This is a command to go back to the very beginning, to return to his spiritual roots. And Jacob gets it immediately. He knows this isn't just about packing up and moving. He tells his whole family, get rid of the foreign gods you have with you, purify yourselves, change your clothes. These are all powerful physical symbols of a much deeper spiritual act, leaving behind all their compromises and turning back to God for real this time. And this really gets at a huge theological point, something that scholar Walter Brueggemann talks about a lot. And it's this. Sometimes crisis is the very thing that sparks renewal. It's in those moments of total failure, of shame, that the door opens for a true spiritual reset. This whole disaster, as awful as it was, it forced them to look in the mirror and realize just how far they'd wandered off course. All right, so after all that, this incredibly intense family drama, what are we supposed to take away from it? What are the big lessons we can pull from the rubble of what happened?
Well, there are a few really big ones. First, it's pretty clear that moral compromise just destroys the peace of a community. Second, it screams out for the need for strong spiritual leadership, something Jacob was kind of failing at in the beginning. It also shows us that when there's moral failure, it has to be followed by real repentance. And maybe the biggest takeaway of all is that God's grace is still there, even in the absolute mess of a family's brokenness. And there's one last crucial point. At the end of the day, this whole tragic, horrific event is also seen as a kind of divine discipline. Think of it like a painful but absolutely necessary course correction. It was the jolt that knocked the family off the path of blending in and pointed them back toward their unique, holy purpose. And if you look at it with a theological lens, this whole act of purifying themselves at Bethel is a huge piece of foreshadowing. It's like a picture that points forward to a much bigger ultimate cleansing, the kind that's found in the redemption of Christ, which is what truly restores that broken connection with God. So, all of this leaves us with one final big question to think about. This ancient family, they found their way back from the edge by going back to their Bethel, their place of renewal. And that really makes you ask, doesn't it? In our own lives, when we face our own crises, our own failures, where is our Bethel? Where do we go to find that cleansing, that recommitment, that way forward?